Hello everyone, welcome to this new lecture. Today's topic is low carbon innovation and investment. Here you can see a summary of what we are going to cover in this lecture, and basically we will start with some principle of the theory on environmental innovation, and then we will discuss the static versus dynamic efficiency of the EU ETS, and then we will summarize the main result of the empirical literature in this field, and in the end, in the last slide, I will introduce the innovation fund which are included in the EU ETS system. When it comes to the theory behind the relationship between the EU ETS, so an environmental policy, and innovation, the main idea is the so-called Porter hypothesis. The idea of the Porter hypothesis is that an environmental policy, by imposing an external constraints to firms, is actually promoting innovation because firms are searching for new input-saving technological change and for new innovation which may help them to comply with the regulation. So the idea of Porter, and the idea of the Porter hypothesis is that a certain type of environmental policy can actually push firms to increase their long-term competitiveness through an input, through incentivizing innovation. In order for the Porter hypothesis to occur, environmental policy needs to have at least 5 characteristics. The first of these characteristics is a so-called stringency. The stringency is the level of the policy itself. So we consider a policy to be stringent if it gives an high signal to the operator in the market. For instance, if we consider a landfill tax, the stringency of the landfill tax is the amount of money that operator need to pay in order to send 1 ton of waste to the landfill. Obviously, in the case of the EU ETS, the stringency is the allowance prices. The second aspect is the predictability and the credibility of the policy. A policy is more credible if the policy and the political environment around the system is credible and if it's stable. Okay, so the idea here is that a more predictable and a more credible policy system provides stronger incentive to firms when it comes to low carbon innovation. Then the next aspect is the so-called flexibility. So a policy which is flexible, so technology neutral, so which is not supporting a specific technology, is expected to have a stronger effect on innovation with a policy which target a specific kind of technology. Then another aspect is incidence. With incidence, we as economists refer to how close the policy is to the target, to the environmental bet, to the environmental externality that we are considering. So in the case of carbon pricing, we are targeting carbon emissions, so we are really close to the target. In the case of landfill tax, again, we are targeting the landfill, so also in this case, the incidence is really high. The final aspect is the so-called depth. With the depth of the policy, we refer to how the policy is able to provide a continuous stimulus towards innovation. So, for instance, a tax has more depth with respect to an emission standard. And the basic idea of the theory in this field is that the higher the depth of a policy is, the stronger is the effect of innovation. Okay, now that we introduced the Porter hypothesis, it's time to discuss static versus dynamic efficiency, which means, in the end, short-term cost effectiveness with respect to long-term cost effectiveness. In the short term, cost effectiveness depends on agents' operational decisions, which are conditional to a given level of capital and technology. In the long term, of course, what matters is not simply a given level of capital and investment, but is the ability of operator in the market to do some more additional investments. Okay, so if from the one hand the EU ETS can be considered static efficient by definition, the dynamic efficiency of the system depend on operator expectation on investment return, which again depend on the five factors that I mentioned above. So to summarize, static efficiency has to be taken for granted in an emission trading system, while the dynamic efficiency depends on the capacity of the system to support innovation. Okay, now in the next slide we can see which are the main results of empirical literature. There are quite a lot of paper in literature in this field, and here we are trying to summarize the main result of this paper. First result, in phase 1 and phase 2 of the UATS, the system has not been able to strongly support innovation. It had some effect on incremental emission reduction, it promoted some fuel switching, but it has been less powerful than other factors in supporting innovation. Secondly, what this literature found is that the surplus of allowances in the carbon market experienced after 2009 has been one of the main responsible for this low impact of the UATS, because of course this surplus of allowances decreases the stringency of the system by decreasing the allowances prices. Finally, another big responsible of this, let's call it limited success of the UATS when it comes to promoting low carbon innovation and investment is grandfathering and free allocation. Okay. Then we also can see here a summary of non-econometric literature. Non-econometric literature means literature which is not based on statistical tool. Basically, this literature found very similar results, but also added something relevant, which has to do with organizational innovation. With organizational innovation, we refer here to all those innovation which has to do with how the production of a firm works. Okay, so basically we found literature found a correlation between the UATS and organizational innovation, which suggests that the policy has been internalized by regulated firms. Okay, then in this last slide, you can see that in order to promote the dynamic efficiency, the UATS also included a founding program. In particular, I'm referring here to the so-called NER 300, which is a founding program for high innovative low carbon investment. And this program has been financed by the sale of auction of allowances. And the idea is to have a tool which can support the innovation and research and development in long-term risky projects. And the final thing that I want to stress is that in the revision for phase 4, there will be a new innovation fund, which is called exactly Innovation Fund, which has exactly the same aim, so to promote long-term stability and long-term efficiency. And I would say that it's everything for today, and thanks for watching.